My name is Dr. Bhaskar Bora. I am the student counselor as well as the chief executive officer of Aspire Academy, and I want to welcome you all to this video lecture where we are going to talk about soft skills. Why do they matter? So let's start by exploring the topic of soft skills. What are soft skills and why do they matter at all? In today's world, as everything is getting more and more stressful, everything is getting more and more competitive, it is very useful to get an edge over someone else. It is also important to make ourselves a better person than what we were yesterday. There are two sets of skills that we can broadly classify into. One is the hard skills or the core skills that we gather from our experience, from our education. And the other one is called soft skills, something which we are learning about more and more. And that's the one which talks about how we build our character, our habits, how we deal with other people, how we deal with ourselves, so on and so forth. So in this lecture, we will explore each of the soft skills topic, the definition, the reason why they're important, and then in the further lectures, we will delve more into each of those skills. So do bear with me as we carry on, and if you like the video, do subscribe to our channel, and I hope to see you throughout this journey as we explore about the soft skills. So what are soft skills? As you can see on the slide, the soft skills refer to a set of personal attributes, behaviors, and qualities that enable an individual or individuals to effectively interact, communicate, and work with others. Now that sounds like a bit of a jargon, isn't it? But what essentially it is that soft skills are the ones that define our character, our habits. It tells us what kind of a person we really are, and how we deal with others. Now, some of these are something that we are born with. It depends on the way we are brought up by our parents, the kind of environment we are in. But as they are rightly called skills, they are also something that we can develop over a period of time by actually observing and trying to learn. So let's talk about them a bit more. But before going to each of the individual domains of soft skills, let's talk about their importance in personal and professional life. Why are they important? Personally, when we talk about soft skills, we talk about communication, we talk about interpersonal skills, we talk about leadership, we talk about empathy, compassion, and all sorts of things. And bearing in mind, human beings are social animals, and it is not really possible to live our life in complete isolation or being completely alone. It is important that we do learn how to understand others and how to have a good interpersonal relationship with other people, so that not only we benefit from other people, but we can also give something back to them. Remember, all relationships are give and take in a form. So it is pertinent that we do refine ourselves as good human beings, and that is where the soft skills come into play. Similarly, in professional life, we all, when we get our degrees, when we get our education, we all kind of gather some core skills. For example, I am a doctor by profession, so I have gathered my medical knowledge just like anybody else by reading those books. However, how I behave as a doctor depends not just on my core skills but also on the soft skills as well. Similarly, in the corporate world, if you have to grow up the corporate ladder, if you have to climb up the corporate ladder, then you have to have certain skills, certain etiquette, certain courtesies, which will help you climb up the ladder sooner rather than later. Similarly, in student life, how you deal with your classmates, your colleagues, your teachers, and all, and actually how you gather your knowledge to make yourself a better person, that also depends a lot on the soft skills. A friend of mine who is a soft skills trainer, Simantha, he gave a very good analogy, like our set of skills being like the two wheels of a cycle. So while the rear wheel of the cycle are your core skills, and it is important, and it is, in fact, it's invaluable to have that rear wheel, otherwise you can't go anywhere. However, the front wheel is the one that kind of takes you in the direction where you want to go, and it is that soft skill which, in the analogy of the front wheel of the bicycle, shows you where you need to go, where you wish to go, and how will you reach your destination by enabling yourself to develop those soft skills in your life, both personally and professionally. So let's explore each one of these topics and the different domains within the soft skills. As you can see, the picture here shows a very neat row of blazers or jackets, as we also call them, and show a very soft fabric, and that is essentially what we have to be like with when we develop these skills. So one of the first and foremost skill is communication skills. So what are communication skills? The communication skills, it's the ability to convey information effectively and to listen actively. Now, if you listen to this once again, or you read the slide, you'll see there are two components to this. One is the conveying of information effectively. That means effective speaking. When you are talking to someone, it is very, very vital that you talk to them in a language that they would understand. There's no point in talking about medical jargon to a patient whose literacy may not be too high. Similarly, there's no point in talking to someone else in completely technical terms when they don't have any clue about that subject. That doesn't necessarily mean that they don't know anything at all. It's just that their language bit is different. So whenever we're trying to explain to someone or we converse with someone, it is a bit different, and depending on the audience or the person that you're talking to. For example, the way I would talk to a student would be different to how I would talk to a fellow doctor of mine, or how I would address a professor, a subject matter specialist, to whom I may be asking some advice from. So the way how we convey the information is different according to the situation, as well as to the audience that you're talking to, and it also depends on the subject that you are talking about as well. The second part is listening actively. Now, there is a difference between hearing things and actively listening. So when we're talking about hearing, it means that somebody has just said something and you have just picked up a part of the conversation, and then it's up to you whether you filter that information up to your brain and really act upon it, or you just let go of it. Active listening, on the other hand, means you are attentively listening to what the other person is saying, and with your non-verbal cues, as we call them, or with your body language, you show it to the other person that you are listening to them as well. For example, nodding your head, yeah, saying, or saying like mm-hmm, mm-hmm, yeah, yeah. So those sort of things, that is actively listening. Sitting in an open posture, like with your arms open, without any barriers between the two people. Those sort of things also play a big part. But in the coming chapters, in the coming lectures, we'll delve more into communication skills. Now, one of the examples that I can give you, especially for me being a doctor, so I can think about more in doctor's terms. If somebody has got a good communication skill, then research have shown that the doctor himself can be as effective as a drug. When you go to see a particular doctor, you may feel that just by talking to the doctor, just by the reassurance given by that particular doctor, or the fact that you have felt that you have been listened to, makes you feel better. Whereas on the other hand, you might go to someone who doesn't have any time, and all they did was chuck you in and out of the room with a prescription. And although you've got all the prescriptions and all the tests under the sun, but you are still not satisfied because you felt that the doctor has not really listened to you. So, effective communication skills, which I always practice as a doctor, is that you actively listen to the patient. You then try and communicate to them in their language. You try and show empathy and understanding to what their ideas and concerns are. You try to understand what they are, what their expectations are from you, from this consultation. And if you can address those things, then you become a drug by itself, and therefore you won't need to give out hundreds of prescriptions, or you may not even need to give out so many of the tests, because you will get a clear history from the patient. You will be able to form most of your diagnosis just by listening to that patient. So hence is the theory, the doctor is a drug for effective communication skill. But we will come back to it in our further lectures. So I hope you're with me so far. So let's go on to the next one, and this is a big one, called empathy. So what is empathy? Empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of others, or in other words, putting yourselves in other shoes. Now, empathy is something which is lacking in this world. If the world had more empathy, more compassion, then the world itself would be a much better place to live in. But what exactly do we really mean by empathy in layman terms? I'll give you another example. I am a disabled person. I cannot walk properly. I need the aid of two crutches, or I need to have a wheelchair. And often people find it difficult to understand. There have been many occasions when I have been called a cripple, I have been laughed as a disabled, and although now I have reached a point where those things doesn't matter to me anymore, but yet it is quite important that people do realize the implication of the words or their behavior, because there are many other people in this world who are quite vulnerable, and some of this off the cuff remark from people can push them over the edge. So if somebody asks me, how do you empathize, or how do you understand the mentality, or what a disabled person is going through? So I would say, if you want to really understand how a blind person navigates his day, then I would suggest you put a blindfold on your eyes and you then try and move around your school or your office or your home without taking that blindfold off, and then you will know how hard the life is. Similarly, if you want to really know how a person who cannot walk goes on with his daily life, then you need to tie yourself down to a wheelchair with the promise of not getting up whatever comes for the whole day, and then you will know how hard a life that other person faces, or the challenges that they face. And I was recently giving a talk in a very big company, corporate, and I was told by one of the senior directors there. He said that he did try to understand what I might be going through as a disabled person, and he tried to play wheelchair basketball. And it was such an eye opening experience for him that his whole attitude towards any disabled person has changed. So, that is what we mean by empathy. It is by understanding what the other person might be going through. It is not necessarily just physical disability, it is also about understanding what your fellow pupil, fellow student, or your colleague might be going through, because we are very quick to judge and pass comments, but it's only when we put ourselves in their shoes we might understand why they have behaved in the way they're doing, or why they are like the way they are at that particular point in time. The third thing is adaptability. Now, what is adaptability? In simple words, it is the ability to adjust ourselves to the new situations or changes. Now, remember, the only constant thing in this universe is change. So, basically, everything changes all the time. There is nothing that is forever. So we have to keep up by changing ourselves as well. And it is about how we adjust ourselves to that change that is what defines our life, and how we behave with ourselves as well as with the others. Now, some of these things may be within your control, some of them may be outside your control. For example, you may need to get a new job, or to a new place because you've been transferred, or you have, in case of students, you might have to join a new school or graduated from a school to a college, so you're meeting new friends, new teachers. So that's a whole change in itself. So how do you adapt to that change? For me, again, it was about adapting to the life of being a disabled person, and how I would need to do that. I understood that there are certain things within our control, and that is what we need to change, rather than trying to spend or waste our energy on things that we cannot control, and then later on become dejected or even depressed. So it is about adapting, or making those necessary changes within yourselves or within ourselves, so that we can adapt to the new situation. For example, when I realized that I could not walk anymore, or I could not drive as I used to, or I couldn't climb the stairs, then I knew that there had to be changes in the house, there need to be changes in the car, but most importantly, what needed to change was my mindset, and that is an example of adaptability. But again, will delve one whole chapter to this point on adaptability. It's a very, very important skill set in terms of soft skills. Now we come something which goes beyond just us. It is about teamwork and collaboration. As you can see on the picture, these are a group of skydivers who have formed a nice ring or multiple rings amongst themselves as they are diving down to the ground from a very high altitude, and doing a very, very risky, almost life-threatening maneuver. But they are able to do this because everybody is working their bit with ultimate precision, and therefore they are able to form this ultimate team. So the definition of this would be the capacity to work well with others, to contribute to a team, and to foster a cooperative and an inclusive work environment. Now, there are different stages. There are of how you form a team. There may be some people who are working alongside each other. Then there are people who are working with each other, and then there are people who are working for each other as a team, complementing each other. And we all have to play our most important part. And another example I'll give you is that I own a restaurant. So somebody might think the only person that is important in the restaurant is the head chef and the manager. But actually, if you see, every person in the restaurant, whether it's the waiter, whether it is the second chef, whether it is a kitchen porter who's cleaning the dishes, whether it's the person who is decorating the plates, all of them are equally important. And if one of them doesn't perform, then the whole operation would fall into a disarray. Now, if you go through the stages of teamwork, there is something which you can see. It's called storm, norm, form, and perform. So basically, when a group of people get together, there will be lots of conflicts, there will be lots of misunderstandings, ego issues, and all of that. And that's the initial stage, which is called the storm. And then eventually things will calm down. They will start listening to one another. They will let go of some ego issues. They will let go of some misunderstandings. And that is when things tend to get normalized. Sometimes they may not give up their egos, but they learn to live with one another or work with one another. And that's the second stage, which would be the norm. And then there comes the formative stage, when actually they start actively listening to one another, supporting one another, and they become more a group of people working together as a team, rather than individuals being put in one place. And that is when comes the final stage, where they all understand one another without even saying a thing. So just a glance of the eye, just a gesture of the hand would be enough for the other person. And that is how you would need to perform to be a top performing cricket team, or a gymnastic team, or in this case a skydiving team. So these are the 4 stages which we will come back to again. So teamwork and collaboration, one of the most important bits of soft skills. Now, problem solving. It's the capability to analyze situations, solve problems, and coming up with innovative solutions. When we talk about management is basically problem solving. As you grow up higher into corporate ladder, for example, when you become a partner in a big firm, or you reach the level of the chief operating officer, or the chief executive, or a director, or that sort of thing, then there isn't really a job description. The only job description is to solve the problem at hand, getting the job done. And that is what we need to do. It is about developing that skill where we can analyze the situation, analyze the people involved, and then we don't present with the problems. We present with the solutions to those problems. And that's what I would expect from my team, my staff members, of which, when I say my team, I'm not saying as a senior of the team. I'm saying as a part of being that team. So when someone comes to me saying that we've got these problems, I would expect that the person with the soft skill to say that these are the possible solutions as well. And that is how you build your own value into the team as well. So that is the value addition on how you solve a problem. Critical thinking. This is very, very important. This is especially when you're faced with complex situations or sometimes very adverse situations which you had not planned at all, and suddenly something has come up. For example, there is a certain sudden waterlogging in your area, and you cannot reach that place. Oh, there's been a fire in your office, and you cannot um, think about what to do right at that point. Or in my case, I've had situations where my fellow doctor did not turn up because he was off sick, and suddenly we had to think on our feet as what to be done. So it is about finding out what would be the best option, what you need to prioritize. If we are not able to see all the patients, what shall we do? Can we at least see the most important ones? Can we at least see the ones who have booked many weeks ago? Oh, so those sort of things. So we in the UK we have situations where called the major incident procedures and all. So which is a part of the critical thinking, and for that you need to have logic. You need to have evidence of what had worked in the past. You need to have a written up or completely formulated contingency plan, and most importantly emotional intelligence, so to which we will come back to. But critical thinking is very important, even if you are thinking of appearing for competitive exams, you're thinking of becoming a civil services officer or going to a big corporate, or indeed you are an entrepreneur. And even in your personal life, it is very important to develop that habit of critical thinking, and therefore putting yourself sometimes in scenarios where you think that there may be this situation coming, so that you are prepared when the actual situation comes, hoping that it won't come, of course. Conflict resolution. This is a very important one as well, especially when you're working in a team, or especially when you're heading a team. For example, in Aspire Academy, as our team is growing, there may come a time where there may be issues, some conflicts, some disagreements, some ego issues, and all of that. So it is the capacity or capability to identify and to address and to resolve those conflicts and disagreements in such a way that they are constructive, they're respectful, they are not personally hurtful to anyone, and at the end of it, when the conflict is resolved by listening, giving a fair listening to all the parties involved, then actually this becomes an important learning exercise, because we do learn a lot from the conflicts. But it is pertinent that you know how to resolve a conflict without adding fuel to the fire. So you know how to get two fighting people to shake hands or become friends again. Then of course comes creativity. Now creativity is basically thinking out of the box, generating new ideas, approaching problems with innovative solutions. So what can be done differently this time, which should yield us better results than last time? We all know there is a problem. The problem needs to be solved. We have tried several things before. Some of them have worked, some hasn't worked. So what it could be this time that we can make it work better. So some of these may be tried and tested in the past, but nobody had thought about it. Some of it may be completely new and experimental, and there is an element of risk to it as well. But what is growth without innovation? Similarly, what is problem solving without creativity? But this is a huge chapter in itself. We'll come back to it. This is something you may be inherently born with, and therefore there are some people who are more creative than others. But it is also a skill that you can develop with experience and by discussing with others, or by learning relevant books and as such. Time management, really important. I can't stress enough about the management of time, because you can lose everything and get it back, but you cannot ever regain lost time. You cannot touch the same water in a river twice, as they say. So it is the skill of effectively prioritizing your task. It's about managing deadlines, about utilizing your time effectively, but most importantly, it is about being proactive with your time. And therefore, in today's age, just working hard is not enough. It is about working smart as well. It is about making the best use of that time, whether it is by multitasking, whether it is by prioritizing what needs to be done, whether it is by finding different aids which can help you do your task um, easily, whether it is by using artificial intelligence or not, but that is a different question altogether. But it's about how you best manage your resources. A lot of it can come down to delegation as well, so that you don't look into the things, into all things that can be done by somebody else. So but you manage the important things that will make a difference, whether in terms of decision making or in terms of taking the operations forward. So time management, a very very important soft skill that can be developed with experience, with delegation, and with effective management. Leadership, yes, it is something that you develop over a period of time. But then there are some born leaders, and others, they become leaders by virtue of what they have learned, or by virtue of leading by example. But leadership is not just by hierarchy. In the past, a king's son became the king. A director of a company or owner of a shop would be taken as the leader. But actually, the leader is one who, regardless of the formal hierarchical positions or the chair they sit on, they have the capacity to inspire, to guide, and to motivate other people towards the common goal. They are people who others look up to. So they are less than 1% of the population in this world. But then everybody can be a leader under different circumstances, with different skill sets. It is about being honest, being approachable, being sincere, being hardworking, and by being able to lead by example. It is about showing others the path, and having a firm belief not just in yourself, but also on your team. So we will talk about leadership in the next classes, so do continue with me. I hope you are liking the video so far, so please do subscribe to our channel for further videos like this. And if there is anything that you'd want me to change, then do please write on the comments as well. I will do a similar video in Assamese. মই অসমীয়াটো এনেকুৱা এটা ভিডিঅ' এটা কৰিম। মই এইটো ইংলিছত এইটো ভিডিঅ' primarily ইংলিছত কৰিছোঁ, and I hope so far I have been able to give you some knowledge. Now comes the most important of all, which is emotional intelligence. Now, what is emotional intelligence? We've been hearing about this for some time now. Previously, when I was in school, the only thing I knew was IQ, or intelligence quotient, which is basically how much you can score in your paper, or how many marks you are getting in your exams, which showed how intelligent a person you are. But there is something more to that, in your life than just getting marks, and that is where the emotional quotient or the EQ comes into play. But in order to develop the EQ, you need to have emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence is basically the awareness of your own emotions and being able to manage your own emotions in such a way that you are able to understand other people's emotions, and therefore you're able to empathize and you're able to put yourself in their shoes as well. So emotional intelligence is the one thing. If you do not learn anything else of the soft skills, but you understand this emotional intelligence, and this is actually not something that you have to learn, it's something that we have deep within us. We just have to discover us. So if we do discover the emotional intelligence within us, then not only will be your own life or the life of the people around will get better, but the whole universe can change if you can develop your emotional intelligence. And this is a huge chapter in itself. We can talk about the theories behind it. We can talk about how you develop your emotional intelligence, what things you can do to impact on others' emotional intelligence, and all sorts of things. So we will cover to that in the next few video lectures. Now, why are soft skills important? Going back to what we had started off with, it is important both in personal and in professional life, because by employers, you basically, as an employer, I've been an employer and self-employed as well as an employer for the last 14 years now. So I have, whether you say a blessing or a curse, but I have had to hire and fire several people. And when I do hire someone, the first thing, irrespective of their educational qualifications, which are of course important, but irrespective of the education qualifications, I would look at how that person would fit into the team, how that person communicates with me or communicates with the person who is subordinate to them. So and how they're able to empathize with other people's problems, because I do give them scenarios rather than just asking them about questions about themselves. So employers have not just normal interviews now, they do have aptitude tests and all. Similarly, when you go for your civil services interviews or even in your mains papers, there will be lots of questions about aptitude, about ethics, about reasoning, and those sort of things. And a lot of it is on soft skills. Now, in personal life, of course, this is so important because, as I mentioned before, we are not born to live alone our whole life, although there may be many a time when we just want to be left alone. But in general, we need company, and in order to have a good relationship, whether it is as a son, a daughter, a husband or a wife, a boyfriend or a girlfriend, or even as fathers or mothers, you need to have good soft skills to be able to justify and do full justice to your roles. So to be able to communicate with your kids, to be able to be compassionate with your partners, to be able to empathize with them, understand their problems, those sort of things. So you need the soft skills. So there is no escaping from that fact, and there is no denying of that fact either. So how do we develop the soft skills? As I mentioned, some people are born with inherent aptitudes, which makes them a kind person, or more understanding, better communicators, better orators, and all. But most of us have got a good enough brain so that we can develop our soft skills, and hence they're called skills. by taking some of the steps, for example, by actively listening to others. So we've got two ears and one mouth, and the reason for that is that we should be listening more than we talk. And it is often said that the wisest person speaks at the last. So although these are some quotes from olden times, but they still hold value. But not everything to be taken on the face value. There is a deeper meaning behind all of that. But active listening is very, very important. I have learned that as a doctor, and by grace of God, because I had been able to practice that, I've always had a very good rapport with my patients. It's about participation in group activities. So one tip which I would like to say, if you get asked in your civil services exams and all that, what game would you like to play? I would much rather term a team game like cricket or a football sort of thing, rather than saying tennis or skating or something, because those are individual games. Although that is also important, and that is also a important activity, but it is about being able to participate in the team, participating in group activities, in group discussions, and those sort of things, which can enhance your soft skills. And then, of course, it's about reading books. In my case, it's about listening to books. So if you there are thousands and thousands of books, and we will give out a list to you as a part of the description of the videos, where you can pick up some of those books as relevant books for developing soft skills. It's about attending workshops as well, so which are quite similar to group activities, but put in a more formal way, where there will be things like icebreakers, exercises to do together, group discussions to do together, giving feedback to one another, those sort of things. And then finally comes your seeking feedback. We have to be open to learn. So if we think that we are perfect, then we are never going to learn anything more. Similarly, if you think that I am the boss and I don't need to listen to anyone, then you are not going to develop into a better human being either. So it is about seeking feedback, seeking honest feedback. If you're surrounded by yes men all the time, then even if you are going wrong, there will be nobody to check and balance. But if on the other hand, you have got some genuine friends, some trustworthy colleagues at work, or indeed family members, then they might someday come to you and say that what you're doing is probably not best for you, and you need to be open to that. You need to listen to that feedback. Many a time it happens that there's somebody is shouting at the top of their voice, or they're always swearing and shouting at others, but nobody says anything to them because he's the boss. But that's not really helping him. So there are different ways of giving feedback. We can talk about that as well, of receiving feedback, including the one that is most favorite to me is the 360 feedback, where people can give anonymous feedback on every person they deal with, and every person gets a feedback from the others, and that they can judge themselves according to their self-assessment, if they have marked themselves correctly, or if they are quite oblivious to the fact that they think that they are a very good, gentle, straight person, but all the feedback comes in that this person cannot be trusted, or this person is not hardworking or sincere, and those sort of things. So there is quite a lot to discuss. The soft skills are a huge topic, and I can go on and on about this. There are lots of examples that I can cite from my own life. The fact that I had been bedbound for more than 7 months and been permanently disabled for the last nearly 4 years had given me a lot of insight into all these sort of skills, or all the importance of them, and that's how I become a motivational speaker, and a teacher and a counselor. But trust me, I tell you that whatever my friend Sivanta had said, that although your rear wheel of the cycle is very important, it is the front wheel, your soft skill, which will take you to where you want to go. And all of these are equally important. And we will, in our next chapters, in our next video lectures, we will talk more about each of them in detail. So the next step, the important thing to understand that it is a lifelong cycle. The learning doesn't end. The learning has to continue. You learn something new every single day, as long as you keep yourself open to learn, to ask, to question yourself, the question within, as to how you can be a better person than what you were yesterday. And there is that picture of the cycle with the two wheels that we've been talking about, and it is an evolving skill. Actually, to be fair, soft skills have been there always, and they probably were more there in olden times, but actually some of our training has taken us away from being as receptive as we used to be. So therefore we have now given a formal name called soft skill, but actually this is something we should be born with and learn. It is not, although it's called the soft skill, but they are quite hard to develop unless you have the right attitude. So keep on learning, and I am there if I could be of any help. There are lots of other people as well. There are lots of other trainers. There are lots of books that you can learn from. But the key thing is to keep an open mind and to learn. So for more video lessons like this, to talk about different subjects, including physics, chemistry, maths, biology, science, English, and also the arts subjects like economics and political science, as well as commerce subjects like accountancy, bookkeeping, and all, do join Aspire Academy. Don't just take my word for it. Do check us out on our website called www.aspireacademycoaching.com, or watch our YouTube channel for free videos called Aspire Academy Online Coaching. Or for further information, you can give us a call. Do join us or enroll with us at a very nominal price of £999 for the whole year, which is less than 999 rupees for the whole year, which is less than 3 rupees a day, to gain full access to the whole course. And we are local. We are there for you all the time. We've got a fantastic team of teachers, and we look forward to sharing our knowledge and making the best out of you to help you achieve your dreams. So, ladies and gentlemen, all dear students and friends and colleagues, thank you very much for your time and for listening to me. I hope it was useful. Do let me know in your comments, and please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Thank you once again. God bless. Thank you. Namaskar.